and a competitive industry structure and the volumes and the mass to really permit or enable a breakthrough in large volume manufacturing. So this is the government side. So you have the extra support for the building block, which is the chip. There is this investment support of 25% capital subsidy, which is pretty large under the MSIPS program. You have central government support working in partnership with industry and with state governments in creating modern state-of-the-art clusters. Now here one key challenge would be there, and I do hope the promoters of the clusters of the state governments would do that extra, go that extra mile in making it successful, and which is to keep these clusters free of power cuts and see that the quality of electricity supply is not subject to the normal vagaries of industry supply in industrial areas. Now this will be a challenge because essentially what state governments would need to do is to say that this is the favored child, we will discriminate in its favor. Because as I see in the coming years, electricity supply will not be perfect in this country, it will still be a challenge for some years. So I do hope that promoters of these manufacturing clusters or parks, along with the state governments, will put in place the regulatory mechanism for partial open access, full open access, dedicated supply from central generating stations through power grid or whatever. But see that this is a favored child which is free of power cuts. Because this is one of those industries where I am told that if the quality of power supply is not the best, then there's a huge competitive disadvantage vis-a-vis the rest of the world. And entering, being a late entrant, because the fact is that India would be a late entrant, and normal international observers would say that they would see it with a lot of skepticism, because there are not many examples of successful entry in a highly competitive industry structure from almost scratch or from very modest levels. So I think that is one challenge. The other, of course, would be infrastructure. But in terms of infrastructure, the country has moved on, and newer parks or developments have, within the gated walls or within the boundaries, infrastructure which is otherwise of international standards. Then in the cluster development program, the skill development or the manpower training is an integral component. Now this is a welcome change, because traditionally state governments and Government of India have promoted industrial parks and have assumed that investors will come and train their workforce, and they have been doing so and doing so well. But you want huge volumes and very rapid success, and you also want a lot of startups to come in and succeed, then a little bit of extra investment through PPP for skill development in these clusters would make the critical difference. Because when I talk not of this sector but many other sectors and in India and overseas, the typical question which I hear formally in a large hall like this as well as privately is that, is India's demographic advantage a dividend or a curse? The fact is that we have the largest number of young people in the country, in the world from now till 2030. The number of young people in India would be far more than young people in China. So is that young population going to be a source of strength? Will it give us a dividend or will it be a curse? Now that's a larger macroeconomic question which I will not discuss today. But for this sector, if the skill development program in the clusters is effective, and it can be effective in partnership with industry in a PPP mode, then there is no reason that the demographic dividend should be a real dividend as far as this sector is concerned. Now, the one good thing going for us as a country and going for us in this sector is that the young Indian is, I may sound chauvinistic or nationalistic, but he's actually a very smart creature. And he's very smart, therefore he learns very fast. And his skill levels rise remarkably over a few months of good training. And the skill mission is recent, government has been very slow in working on ITIs and modernizing that segment. But all successful manufacturing MNCs or in large Indian firms have actually no problem in matching cost and quality and output per hour with the best in the world by working with their young workforce, because they're highly trainable. And this characteristic has been with us for a long time. So in this context, I like to draw attention to the monument which people who go to Delhi can never miss seeing, which is the India Gate. Now, it is a tribute to the young Indian soldier of 1914, about 1 million of them, who in 3-4 months were trained so well and became so good that they fought bravely and successfully and as efficiently as the soldiers on the other side, which were essentially the Germans. For 42, there is not a memorial, but there was a similar effort. 1 million Indians fought well, the Japanese as well as the Germans. So it's that same potential for training and skill development which is there in the young Indian. I am referring to the not so well educated young Indian, because in Bangalore I don't have to talk about the potential of the educated Indian. The great success of this city is the talent and the success of the young educated Indian, who has made this city what it is on the global map, and which gives it that buzz, and which is why you have all the R&D centers here and all the startup and all the MNCs here, because they are here for the talent of the young Indian. But that talent has also therefore created an ecosystem in India, because young people are mobile, they move around. There is osmosis even if young people don't move around. They spend time together in pubs or cafes or whatever. And that osmosis would create in what I would call the educated or the top management of this revolution that I foresee in manufacturing. So that talent is already available. But the general skepticism has been that you don't have skilled workers, your workers can't do what the Taiwanese or the Korean worker does. But that is where I believe that many of us get it wrong, because when that worker is well trained, if he is in a productive cluster, if his housing is taken care of, because that is the other big change that we need, and this program would hopefully have, that you will put workers' housing in the clusters. Because one big problem and a weakness in industrial development in the last 20 years is that we've forgotten the worker and his housing. So essentially, when small and medium entrepreneurs tell me that NREGA or food security will hurt them, what they're really referring to is not the welfare that would float from NREGA or food security, but they refer to what they don't recognize, which is the 3,000 to 4,000 wage differential between rural areas and the urban areas where they work, because of the extra cost of transport and housing. And they have to also factor in the loss of productivity, because if the worker, when he reaches the work premises, needs a cup of coffee to get going or a cup of tea, then obviously he is not as efficient as his counterpart in another place in the world where he comes in well rested, well bathed and ready to work at peak productivity. The software industry recognized it, and that's why you have these lovely campuses where all the software professionals can just stroll across and work. So when we go to manufacturing in these clusters, we should try and replicate the success of the software industry.